Hello, my name is Kody Johnson, and this is CSE 335 project phase 3, and my project is called MyRecipe, and we're just going to jump right into it here. So, project idea. The main goal of my project called MyRecipe is to create a friendly user interface that allows people, cooks, food enthusiasts to store, create, and just view other recipes. Essentially, this project aims to allow the user to create their own recipes on an app and add them into core data, semi-permanent storage unless they choose to delete it. And as well, the user has the option to view the recipes once completed and even go as far as to find other 5-star recipes online through Food to Fork API calls. In addition, the user has the option to enable user location services so that they may use the map functionality of the app. That said, the map functionality of MyRecipe aims to allow the user to locate ingredients, grocery stores, anything that they may need in order to cook up their recipe. In short, MyRecipe is just an app targeting people who like to cook, who maybe want to experiment with food, or just they are in need of digital storage for family recipes, personal recipes, and whatnot. Continuing on, here's the MVC architecture diagram. I'm going to enlarge this to make it a little bit easier to see. And here we are. So here we have the model, the view, and the controller. Excuse me. Essentially, the view consists of everything UI related. So map view, table view, web view, you name it. There's a lot of views in this project, and we will go over those further. The controller is basically what controls the actions off the buttons. It calls the API, it creates the recipes, it handles all data, it catches error, fetch requests, any kind of user interaction, any kind of error, anything that has to deal with retrieving, creating, fetching, deleting, you name it, it's in there. And then core data is where we are storing our entity recipe that has 3 different attributes: name, a string, description, a string, and an image as NS data. Core data allows us to delete recipes, add new recipes, it updates in real time, it provides a lot of functionality and manipulation to our stored data. It also interacts with our table view and other views in order to create necessary cells for the table view. Apologies. Continuing on, we have the UML class diagram. This is a little bit more in depth at what we can see. So initially we have the view control. Everything's connected to this. This is the main view that pops up. It has a list of buttons, and each button will take them to other views like search ingredient, delete recipe, other recipe, add recipe, table controller. So there are 5 buttons in the main view that take you to these. If you go to add recipe, then you are going to have a few text fields and an image, and from here you can enter in the recipe name, the recipe description, and then take a picture of your food or upload one from your photo library. In table controller, this is where we create our table view, and it does a few fetch requests from core data and just loads in a bunch of cells from recipe cells where we created them. And then it transitions over to detailed view controller if you choose to select a cell, and this is just an easier view to relay the information you've stored in there. We have delete recipe, where you can delete one recipe by name or delete all of them. Other recipe is a interesting feature. In here, it's an API call, and then it allows the user to click this button that loads up Safari, and it shows a random 5-star recipe from foodtofork.com. And then search ingredient is where the user is prompted for enabling location services and allows them to search nearby ingredients, food, whatever need be. Continuing on, we have the capabilities. So the capabilities of MyRecipe is to allow the user to store, create, delete, and view their own recipes. Incorporated in MyRecipe is MK map view, core data, UI table view, API calls using JSON data, UI image picker controller, UI storyboard segue, and URL calls to Safari. All these together allow the user to create recipes, delete, you get the idea. The attributes, name, description, and image, where the user can take a photo select on the library. We over this, but after a user creates, a recipe, they can view in the table. They have the detail view. If they don't want that recipe any longer, they can delete it, or they can even delete them all. In addition, the user can search for nearby ingredients, grocery stores, or really whatever they want. It's MK local search. It's a pretty in-depth search function. Capabilities continued. Another feature is MyRecipe is that it makes an API call to foodtofork.com, which will give us a random 5-star recipe URL, and we just allow the user to load that URL on Safari, and they can look at random recipes from online. Continuing on here, we have limitations. Okay, so upon debugging, there was quite a few bugs I found. I fixed most of them, but to begin, one of the main ones I noticed was that the map portion of MyRecipe not necessarily allows the user to only search one item, but due to me not being able to figure out how to reset the pins, say you search like pizza in it, it'll pop up, all these pins will pop up with pizza. However, it will not, say you search another item like potatoes, the pizza pins will stay and there will be potato pins now, and it gets quite overwhelming on the map part, and I wish I'd figured out a way to actually reset those pins on the map. I'm not sure if there's a function for it, but maybe empty the array for it. I'm not entirely sure. It's quite confusing. As well, the API calls were tremendous in size. It would send at least 30 recipes with, it would give them the name, the URL, a bunch of other stuff I really didn't need, like the ratings of it and all that. But essentially, they were all 5-star ratings when I got them, but it was a lot of data nonetheless. As well, when deleting recipes, this is something that took me a while to figure out. When trying to delete a particular recipe inside of core data, it was easy to delete them all because we've already done that function before, but to delete a particular recipe based off its name, I had to use something called a predicate, and that takes in the name, it finds the string, and if anything has that string name, it deletes it. So if you have a bunch of recipes in there and like 3 of them have the same name, like let's say 3 of them are salad, if you go to the delete portion of the app, the delete view, and type in salad and delete, it will delete all recipes to have the name salad in it. So some of the lessons learned. One of the many things I learned is we just spoke about this, it's difficult to target a single item in core data. When trying to delete a recipe on name, I had to use predicate, and it worked perfectly, which is good. As well, I was quite familiar with JSON data. I never really had to do API calls before, but after this class, I'm quite comfortable with them, and I think they're pretty simple, easy to do, and kind of fun. Another thing I learned is to take it one step at a time. When creating the UI, initially I wanted to just get all the storyboard done, all the views, everything, all the buttons and whatnot. I found myself struggling, so I reset. I just did main view, did all functionality, went to the next view, segued to it, did all the functionality, went from view to view to view, as well doing their view controllers with it, and worked out perfectly. Suggestions for improvement. All right, so as noted that I uploaded, when given the API call, I was given a URL and I would just upload Safari. I really rather have created a web view, and this is something I tried figuring out. I looked at code that you had posted, and it just, for some reason, it didn't work for me. I'm not sure. I kept getting crashes and stuff, and I was uncomfortable with submitting code with something I wasn't sure would work entirely. So in the end, I really wish I had implemented it, but at the same time, I would rather not have my code crash. So as well, with the API calls, they gave us a lot of data, and really what I wanted to do was create a web view and then have it load the first URL given and then give the name of the recipe, and then have a little button on the side clicking next, and it transitions to the next recipe with the next web view URL showing each little individual recipe, and you can click through all 30 of them. I thought that'd be really cool, but I struggle with finding a way to get the array out of the JSON data, because I called a function get data or get JSON data, and in there it gets all the information. I think maybe if I'd done like an asynchronous call, it would have worked better, but That's on me. As well, in the detail view of MyRecipe, I wish I'd created a more reliable UI. That's not the right word, but more in depth. I wanted to really, instead of just doing a description, I wanted to do like a list of ingredients. You can do the same thing in description, but something where it like actually bullet points them out. But I was trying to think of how I would do that. It would involve some kind of parsing with tokens, and I'm not very good at that. I know in C, C++, but not in Java very well. But that's uh, that's really it. So thank you for your time, and I hope all is well.